And like Survival of the Dead, same thing. Now all of a sudden people are saying, oh, I get what you were trying to do there.
Yeah.
And, you know, where initially nobody wanted it. And I think what it has to do is it's the TV syndrome, you know. They wanted CGI or CSI, what's a popular TV show?
Yes,
where it's
CSI, yeah.
the same every week. And there's something about the sameness that I think people like. And what I've tried to do with all the zombie films is purposely make them different, make them a little different, not do the same thing. And that may be part of why it takes so long for people to see it or see it for what it's intended to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is sort of a procedural element to The Walking Dead, where it is a walk, 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 you know, zombie, walk, 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 bad human or whatever, and it's not radically altering up the sort of the setting as you did, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Hi.
What was your inspiration for your zombie movies?
For zombie films?
Yes.
I never realized I was making a zombie film when I made Night of the Living Dead. I didn't call them zombies. I didn't think they were zombies. I thought I was making, what I wanted to do was have some sort of a crisis situation where the people should be concerned about it, and you know, the world was changing, and they should be worried about that. They're more worried about arguing among themselves about issues that really don't matter. There's this whole big thing going on out there, and yet all they care about is arguing about, should we go downstairs, stay upstairs, arguing among themselves. And that's all I wanted to do. So I said, okay, what would be bad enough or a crisis enough? And I said, okay, so people are not staying dead. And they're coming back to life and they're eating humans. That was it. And I never thought of them as zombies. They were the neighbors. They weren't coming up out of the graves. It was just the recently dead. So, you know, I don't think, like in Return of the Living Dead, I don't think my guys would be too weak to dig their way out of a grave. They're also too weak to run. Anyway, I didn't think of them as zombies. And back then, zombies were those, you know, creatures in the Caribbean that were created by voodoo. And so I thought I was just doing something else. Then when people started to write about the film and taking it seriously, they started to call them zombies, and so I just went with the flow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I call them zombies in Dawn.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. If you had to pick any film that has ever been made to call your favorite, what would you call your favorite?
I'm sorry, I really can't.
It's okay, I'll repeat it.
Microphone is...
Any film that is your favorite. What is your favorite film?
Of all time?
If you had to pick just one.
Of all time,
Yes.
not of mine.
Yeah, all time.
Okay, well, you know, I know this is going to sound strange, but my favorite film of all time is a film called The Tales of Hoffmann, which is an opera. Not a spoken word in the film. It's a Michael Powell film that was recently restored by Scorsese. And I'm actually on sort of a little tour introducing the new restoration of that film. It's my favorite film. If anyone has never seen it, I mean, it's a fantasy film, but it's an opera which is still performed, you know, at the Met frequently. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful film. It's the film that made me want to make movies.
Thank you. You know, it's a really popular time right now for anthology TV series, and horror is having a big moment right now on television. Aside from The Empire of the Dead, would you ever have an interest in doing another, like a Creepshow-like anthology series on TV?
Well, you know, my experience is I have a partner who is out right now trying to sell an anthology idea, and everybody is saying, forget it, you can't be an anthology. I mean, we haven't been able to sell it just because it's an anthology.
Really?
Yeah. And they say you have to have ongoing characters. And that seems to be the psychology out there now.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Do you know of one?
I will say this right now, internet, make it happen. George Romero wants to make an anthology series. Let it be known. They want to see it. I want to see it. Is it within the horror space or yeah? Yeah, I think we can put the word out there. St. Louis, it starts with you. Well, I mean, has there been any additional talk? Because I know that there was other possible collaborations with Stephen King in the past. Is he someone that you still speak with as far as maybe we can work on something else?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
But you know, it's hard to fit that fit that into the equation. I mean, Steve would have to do something that he wanted me for.
Right.
You know? He'd have to write something that he specifically wanted me for.
Yeah.
But we haven't been able to sell The Girl That Loves Tom Gordon to anybody.
Yeah.
I've been working on that and I recently wrote another draft of that.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants to do that. I don't know. Nobody's done Gerald's Game.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I was interested in, but we can't get anybody. I don't know anybody knows Gerald's Game.
Yeah. It's an intense and dark and a pretty like a weird tale at times, but yeah.
Yeah. Right, yeah, but the guy's dead.
Yeah. Well, again,
that didn't stop Sunset Boulevard.
Well, the power of social media, perhaps we can spread the word a little bit. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to know, with your films like Dawn of the Dead and The Crazies have its own remakes, I just want to know what's your take on reboots. Do these stories need to be retold, or do you think Hollywood is trying to ideas?
Remakes?
Reboots, remakes, what is your take on those?
Well, sometimes it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Zack Snyder is a good filmmaker, but when we made the original Dawn of the Dead, it was about consumerism. The Monroeville Mall was the first indoor shopping mall that we had ever seen, literally. Now there's one every 3 blocks. But that was the first one. And I knew the people, socially knew the people that were developing that mall. And I went to visit it before it opened. And I said, wow, this is like a temple to consumerism. And so that was at the heart of that film. They don't even recognize it. Like when the characters are flying over, they say, oh, it's one of those new shopping malls or something. It's like they don't even recognize what it is at first. And I think that's at the core of that film. To remake that without that element, I think it's just makes no sense. Unless you want to set it, period, which they didn't do. And so I thought that its reason for existence wasn't there. And that disturbed me. Not only also the zombies, not only were they running, but they were under crank so that they ran even faster. Same in World War Z, they're like ants, they're like army ants, you know. I just don't appreciate, I don't like that. So.
Yeah, I think a quote of yours is that.
The remake of The Crazies, again, a pretty well-crafted film, but the point of the original Crazies was that you didn't know who was crazy. Was the government guys were just as nuts as the people who were infected. And there are parts of that film where you're not supposed to know who's infected and who's not. But when they're faces are postulated. You know, it's like it gives it away. Oh, this guy. So you know, the remake of The Crazies almost became a zombie film, really. And so I don't know. I didn't think that was. And I haven't seen the remake of Day of the Dead.
Don't. No offense to anyone that's involved, but.
And I think there's a Creep Show too. That was not Creep Show 2, but there a Creep Show. There is a third Creep Show.
A third Creep Show? Is there? I don't even know about that, but I don't know about it, so maybe it's not worth knowing about. But yeah, thank you. Hi there.
It's taken for granted now what zombies act like, what they look like, but when you were first doing the original Night of the Living Dead, what was it like to get all of these extras to act like this new creature, to act like dead people?
You know, basically everybody sort of does their own dead. If I'm direct, first of all, it's this ridiculous thing which I wish we could change, which is it's a union regulation. Now that I'm working, I have to work union. I can't speak to the extras. The director cannot speak to an extra. Otherwise, that extra becomes a day player, which means the salary jumps like enormously. And so I can't speak to the extras. A ridiculous thing that ought to be changed. That's one of my campaigns about what needs to be changed in this business. But in the old days, when I used to talk to people, I could never, if I did anything, if I made any kind of a gesture, I'd have 50 guys doing exactly that. And so I just tell people, you know, do your best dead. And, and you get these amazing, wonderful, inventive things. Very often they just sort of lumber, but there are always superstars in the group that come up with some terrific thing that they do. Chris Rowe was here, my manager was at my table, came in to be an extra in Land of the Dead. And he does one of the greatest zombie walks. And it totally is, you know. So the best thing, I find the best way to do it is to just let people do what they want to do.
Thank you. How did Edgar and Simon do? Because we saw the final products in Land of the Dead, and then there was some YouTube video of Simon on the set. But when they actually, you know, jumped into the character and you started rolling, how did they do? Did they overdo it?
Oh no, they're great. They're both pros, and they're terrific. They're great guys, first of all. They were just fun. They were just fun to have there.
They got the ghoul thing down
totally.
naturally.
Totally, yeah.
All right.
They were great. Well, they're sort of in chains. You know,
yeah.
So they couldn't do very much, but they were reaching for the. There's a booth set up that's a photo op. Take a picture with a zombie, and they're the two zombies that are in this photo op. They were great. They're great guys. They're really terrific guys.
Mm-hmm. Hi.
Land's End. Didn't you see Land's End? World's End?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Great.
I actually ended up over in London with those guys on their set for it.
Is that right?
And they are they're students of yours. And Max Brooks is a student of yours. And there's a lot of people that count themselves as students of yours. So who are you a student of? Like, who are you looking up to?
Well, I would say Michael Powell was my hero. And Orson Welles was probably the guy that I stole from the most. Night of the Living Dead, I kept looking at, you know, Welles's Othello mostly for the lighting and beautiful, you know, just stark lighting.
Yeah. And
we were forced into a certain style of lighting because we didn't have very many lights. But so I was trying to do as closely as possible, emulate Wells's lighting.
Hi.
All right. One of my favorite films of yours is Creepshow, which is like kind of like born out of a child's comic book. Each story comes out of a comic book page. How is your directing angle a little bit different to kind of keep it that comic booky feel? Because it was creepy, but it still had that kind of lighthearted, like pop culture sense to it. But it was also like just very. It was a lot brighter than your other stories. So like.
Yeah. Well, you know, I wanted to stick. Steve wrote that screenplay, Steve King, and both the films that I've made that were written by Steve, Dark Half and Creepshow. I wrote Creepshow too, but I didn't direct it. I felt that I was working with Steve's words. I didn't want to change the words. I just wanted to keep it the way Steve wanted it to be. And it's in there. I mean, that lightheartedness is even in his stories. Even when he's trying to be his gruesomest, you know. And we had a conversation about that, about some people can't watch you know, they want to close their eyes when the horror stuff comes, when the gory stuff comes on. And we said to each other, we sit there and chuckle, because you know, I don't know what that is. It's some kind of a warp that puts us in that space. It's either appreciating the way it's done, and there's something about that includes humor. It's got to be a little bit light. Even the most violent and the grossest aspects of it, there's something light about it, because it's not real. Anyway, maybe that's, as I say, a warped way of thinking. That's the way we look at it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. We are quickly running out of time, so I think this might be the final question.
It's a good question.
I
came a little bit late, so I'm not sure if this got spoken, but we know how you feel about remakes. But what about homages like Shaun of the Dead? How do you feel? I mean, obviously we're talking about the two actors from there in Land's End. What do you think about Shaun of the Dead specifically? I mean, it's almost just an offering unto you from your previous films.
I loved Shaun of the Dead the moment I saw it. Universal, actually, I was in Florida, and Universal, when Universal picked it up, they sent me a print. A guy came to a little theater in Florida with the print handcuffed. Like as if it was, you know, the nuke, the bomb, you know. And he brought the print, and he sat at the back of the theater, and they opened this theater and showed it to me, just to me alone. So I'm sitting there by myself, laughing, having a great time. This guy never cracked a smile. And I loved it right away. And so I got their phone numbers and called them up, and they were nervous about my seeing it. You know, because I think first they were worried that I was going to, you know, maybe say something bad about it, but I loved it right away. And we've been friends ever since that phone call. I love that film. I thought it was particularly respectful of not only the genre, but of what my kind of sensibilities about the genre. So, you know, what's not to like? It was great.
Yeah, certainly. Hi. Okay, so we are out of time, but if I don't want to cut off a young person question, okay?
Why do zombies like brains?
This is a tricky question for George, because...
Was that quick enough question?
Yeah.
My zombies have never eaten a brain. They have not. I don't know where that got started. I think it was Return of the Living Dead. But my zombies, are too weak to crack open a skull.
Death should not be a superpower, right?
Right.
Right. All right. St. Louis, it's been a treat. Please show your love and appreciation. Very awesome.